Our panel this morning, retired Brigadier General and Newsmax contributor Blaine Holt, also with us, the COO president of Open Source Intel, Simcha Brodsky. Also with us today, foreign policy expert Harley Lippman. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
So some fast-moving developments overnight, and the president just taking to Truth Social a short time ago, saying the United States will be hitting Iran very hard tonight. At some point in the not-too-distant future, he wrote, we will be taking Karg Island and other oil infrastructure points and assume total control of their oil and gas markets, much like we did, he said, in Venezuela, which is working out brilliantly, he wrote, for both Venezuela and the United States of America. General, this is a significant development. Many military leaders have suggested, prognosticated that we should be taking, or that we will be at some point taking Karg, and the president has put it in writing. This is politically, economically, and militarily very strategic.
It is. You're watching us go to checkmate now. This is going to be the first victory in a war in a very long time in our history books. And what we have to do now is secure the future for Iran and global interest in the Straits of Hormuz and Iranian oil. So that's going to be part of it. But what you're seeing is that last pillar of resistance come down now, the IRGC. The only thing I would say along that path as we now go in to take out the final IRGC and besiege targets over the next several days is be aware that these are martyrs. And when they're martyred and they're going to an extinction event, we have terror cells in this country. We're going to have to take domestic security rather serious as this final chapter plays out in Iran. It'll be good, but it could be rough here at home based on what they do as they're cornered with no options.
Harley, your thoughts on the president's Truth Social post just moments ago. Geopolitically, things are shifting fast.
Well, with you on this program more than once, this is what I urge to take place to really get a deal that President Trump wants, and also to bring peace and stability to the region. The Iranians have been playing Trump. They've been manipulating him. They were able to get Hezbollah, their proxy ally in Lebanon, to attack Israel, forcing Israel to defend itself. And then it created an issue of friction between Trump and Israel. Once again, where Iran is able to manipulate events to their advantage and hurting the United States. Iran was calling the shots. They were acting as if they won. They were treating the United States with great disrespect and viewed America as being weak. It looked quite alarming in the last few days, and it was extremely important for President Trump to turn the tables and show who has the leverage here, who has power, who's won this war. Iran was dictating all the terms, and the United States was being on the defensive. The one good thing about it is President Trump is clearly not a guy who's eager for war. Mm-hmm. He's trying to do everything possible to create peace. But at the end of the day, the people in Iran only respect power. When they heard proportionality, to them, that means weakness. And while they are resilient, don't confuse resilience with strength. They are teetering. We just don't know exactly when, but they are crumbling. And you have to keep up strong military pressure while you negotiate. That's the only way where Trump will get the best outcome from Iran.
Well, taking Karg Island is so strategic. Simcha, let's bring you into your thoughts on his message that just came out a moment ago. And in that message, he spoke specifically about the success of Venezuela. I mean, he's doing Venezuela number 2. That's what he's proposing.
Yeah, well, President Trump definitely knows that the best way to pressure Iran is economically. And as of now, he's been spending most of his time striking defense array, radar, and all sorts of strategic positions that are sort of laying the groundwork for a more intense operation in Iran. And if he does seize Karg Island, that is essentially checkmate for Iran. They will be forced up against the wall, and there's not much that they can do from that point forward. And all of the stress that Iran is currently placing on the Strait and the economic pressure that it's putting on the world at large has sort of come to a head. We saw today that the Prime Minister of Japan has announced that she'll be attending the G7 summit, where she will also be proposing that Japan start. They're going to start basically building their stockpiles of oil in Japan as a response to what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz as of right now. So we definitely see the economic pressure, and I think.
Sure.
President Trump is in a position where the United States produces their own oil, but a lot of the U.S. allies do not. And we're definitely seeing that this is just not something that the rest of the world can stomach anymore. And President Trump is up to his neck with that.
Pivoting away from the reliance on the Middle East. General, you've talked about that time and again. The president did talk to a reporter from the Situation Room last night, suggesting that if Iran does not sign the deal that he has presented them, the bombing will continue tonight. CENTCOM pushing out some video, some of the strikes from overnight into the early morning hours as we woke up this morning. He said the next wave comes tonight, General, if they don't sign. I know the Qataris are really urging Iran to sign, and there was some messaging, propaganda, however you want to slice it, that came out this morning, some signaling that they are not going to do it.
They're not. They've got no way out. And then you're going to have to find who's alive to sign something. There's a lot of social media posts from prominent leaders in Iran. We don't have proof of life on hardly any of them. So we'll see what comes. But I think what we'll be presenting them with very soon is terms. There's going to be a couple of more military nights, though.
Yeah. Harley, is there any pathway to de-escalation at this point?
It would backfire to have de-escalation. Iran thinks they're winning. And unless we show them in no uncertain terms that that's not true, I don't think there's any pathway to an agreement with Iran. What they can't win on the battlefield, they are trying to win at the negotiating table. And it's up to President Trump to make sure that in no uncertain terms that Iran has shown that they lost, the United States won, and the United States needs to get them to the negotiating table. But at the end of the day, still, you need to be able to take out Cargill and the oil facilities to finally resolve this. Every day that does go by, gas prices are higher, inflation is higher, and this drags on. And I understand President Trump is trying to be a wise, thoughtful leader, contrary to a lot of his critics, and do things in phases. But I fear that ultimately, unless you break Iran, because they don't care about the economic well-being of their people, they're cushioned with their billions, the corrupt leaders of Iran. You really have to break this country to have resolution. And then the people will probably rise up, because then the government won't have money to pay the soldiers to shoot them. And when that happens, it's a golden opportunity for the people to take to the streets.
Yeah, and communication key on that. CENTCOM released a statement this morning saying their focus when it comes to strikes have been on Iran surveillance, communication systems, and air defense sites at this point. General, I'll come to you in a moment, but first to you, Semcha, on this. We know that the people have limited internet access already. That's just been reestablished, and it's intermittent at best. Striking these communication systems at the same time we're hitting these defense targets, that could be a deterrent to the people. Actually, what Harley's pointing out is we need them to rise up. We need the people to communicate. Hitting communication systems, how big of a setback would that be?
It would definitely be a setback. It's just a question about how necessary of a setback it is. We've heard also from people on the ground in Iran over the last couple months that the main problem that a lot of the activists are having is communication. And if the communication is hurt even more, and people don't have access to Starlink, or it's too expensive for them to get an internet connection, it could definitely be it would have to be a very necessary deterrent in order to justify that.
Iran is waking up today suggesting that they are fully in charge of the Strait of Hormuz this morning. Again, grain of salt in terms of the propaganda that you're getting out of that regime. But yesterday, the president was very clear, and he actually shared some information during that Oval Office press gaggle where he said that we have been quietly escorting oil tankers with millions of barrels of oil every single night for the last couple of days and weeks. Here's the president from the Oval.
Are you concerned, Mr. President, about the latest inflation number which came out this morning? Could that be a
No, I love it.
for
The numbers look great.
You
know what I really love? I love the inflation. You know why? Because as soon as this war is over, I can say it now. Something you didn't know. We've been taking out millions of barrels of oil. Nobody knows it. You know who doesn't know about it? Iran, until right now. That's why oil's $85 a barrel.
We'll unpack the price of oil in a minute in another segment. But Harley, that was such a moment yesterday. The world found out that the United States military, and Blaine, I'll get to you on this in a second. But first to you, Harley, Iran wakes up and says we're in charge of the strait, while militarily, it's been checkmate and they just didn't know it all along. This is propaganda.
Well, not necessarily propaganda. Perception is reality. They believe they won, Iran. They believe they won by having control of the Strait of Hormuz until now, perhaps. They've discovered strategic deterrence, which arguably is more important to them than even nuclear weapons. Because the idea is you're not going to use it, most likely not use a nuclear weapon. It's more of a threat. But the Strait of Hormuz gives them enormous strategic leverage in the region and the whole world, and gives them an opportunity to make money, which they're desperate for because they can charge a toll. So I think that's very important to Iran to have that control. And that's why I'm skeptical. Would they really give that up? Same thing with their nuclear weapons. I am really, really skeptical that they would ever do that. And without that, I don't see how you could possibly have a deal. So instead of having the status quo continue, the reason why what President Trump did is so important because China and Russia are watching. And if they concluded, what it could have looked like just a few days ago, that President Trump doesn't have the stomach for a longer war, that could encourage China to attack Taiwan and could encourage Russia to test other NATO nations or even invade another NATO nation like the Baltic republics. And that would bring on World War III.
Sure.
So what President Trump is trying to do is have a war now to prevent a much bigger catastrophic war.
General, your final thoughts on this as we close out this segment. The president was in essence saying, you may think you have control of the strait yesterday, but we've been slipping millions of barrels of oil in the dark of night right under your nose. You do not have this strait. That was the messaging. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, but the president wouldn't be releasing the details of a secret operation to evacuate oil, which needed to be because we are running out of storage for Iranian oil. So that's great. But he wouldn't give that away if we weren't going to now close and shut down the deal militarily and provide terms to a defeated Iran. But there is another adversary here, and you and I have talked about this. The other adversary is Lloyd's of London, which has been harassing shipping companies not to play ball with the United States, not to take President Trump on his insurance wrapper. And Europe has been resistant and recalcitrant in helping the United States from a NATO aspect. They've been an impediment the whole way through. Scott Bessent has been waging that war. That's going to unlock too. We're going to see 120 ships a day in and out of that straits very soon.
General Blaine Holt, Semka Brodsky, Harley Lippman, appreciate you helping us unpack and discern the fast-moving developments from overnight. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The out